Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 PDGA Board of Director Candidate Interview Series. I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, and I've teamed up with the PDGA to get to know a little bit more about the 8 candidates we have running for this year's Board of Directors. Joining me today is John Baker. And John, how you doing?
All is well, Terry. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. We're going to start off the series here with a couple of really basic, simple get-to-know-you questions, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper as we go. And the first one are definitely the easiest, which are, how long have you been a PDGA member, and how long have you played disc golf?
First joined in 2016, and, one of my earliest memories, I think, is with my grandfather on my dad's side. We've got pictures. I was like 3-4 years old. He would throw the Frisbee with me for, I think, hours and just never complain. He was like in his 70s. Anyway, I grew up in a small town with 2 brothers, and we threw a lot of Frisbee. We just enjoyed it. I mean, all the time. And my older brother got into disc golf a little earlier than I did, then my younger brother, and then me. So we had a lot of fun just inter-family competitions. But since I got into, the sport, one of my favorite things about it is just the community. It just keeps growing. Yeah, I've met very few bad people in the sport, mostly just people that I enjoy. And I think that's probably my favorite part about the whole thing.
No, that answers what drove you to it, and that's perfect. That was kind of the next component of that. So you said you signed up, though, for the PDGA in 2016?
That's right.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to get into a little bit more detailed questions. And the first one that's coming at you is, one of the 2 main elements of the PDGA mission is to develop disc golf into a globally recognized competitive sport and recreational activity. What does that mean to you, and how would you contribute as a board member toward meeting this objective?
Well, I think that's a fantastic objective. It's an objective that any enthusiast of the sport, just someone like me who just plays a lot of casual rounds in a tournament every now and then, really promotes just naturally, because you'll see folks taking up the sport, and you're just thrilled when someone says, "Oh, this is my first round," or they're bringing their kids out. It's always a good feeling to see the sport grow on a small level even. And if I had any opportunity to contribute to the sport growing on a larger level, that would be extremely gratifying. And that's why I chose to throw my name in the hat here, is because, I feel like I have certain professional qualifications that hopefully would benefit the board. I think most boards of directors need an attorney on them if that's possible, if that's doable. Because, if you're trying to grow the sport nationally and even internationally, you need to do so within the rules. You need to make sure to minimize or preferably eliminate any liabilities in doing so. And, I think that the way I might be able to assist in that would be to essentially give the board free legal advice by either answering legal questions myself, if I know the answer, looking it up if I don't, or even associating with some colleagues if it's a specialized area of the law.
Okay. Well, then we go on to ask and say, the other element of the PDGA mission is to sustain the growth of the organization, the membership, and just the sport in general. So the same question kind of applies, is what does that mean to you, and how would you contribute to the sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing time to try to sustain the growth that's occurred. I mean, I know that's an obvious thing to say, but, I mean, just here in Athens, it's sort of hard to play around on a couple of the local courses where it used to be by yourself. And, I've heard a couple of guys say, "Oh, that's too bad." But to me, it's a beautiful thing. And whatever this explosion is, this perfect storm of the pandemic, and our sport. Combining to just sort of explode participation in new players. I just feel like that needs to be something that is definitely sustained and grown in every. Basically, it's an opportunity that can't be missed. In my mind, it's possibly what the folks who in the 70s contemplated, steady ed or some of those who came before us, what they hoped for, right? That there would be this opportunity where there were people who, all disc golfers know, most folks you run into, they'll see your shirt or something and say, well, what's disc golf or what is that? But I'm more and more just in general, people are, the awareness is being raised in our sport. The participation is being raised in our sport. I think we're sort of at a critical juncture for this sport. And sustaining what we've got right now would really enable, I think, the PDGA to grow in a way, I guess, statistically that it never has before. I mean, it already has, I think. But I would just like to be a very small part of trying to make sure that this recent explosion is taken to the next level.
Okay, well, we've got some options for you, and this one's a little bit. This is a full question in terms of just challenging you and your memory. So I'll be happy to repeat these. It says the current priorities for the 2023 PDGA strategic plan include the following areas. And so I'm going to read off 6 main priorities here that are listed in our upcoming strategic plan. And then it's going to ask you, or I'm going to ask you, to prioritize those, just the top 2. What ones do you feel are the most important and why? Okay. So there's 6 bullet points I'm going to read for you. And those include youth and education, increased support for local clubs, enhancing PDGA leagues, membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and marketing and media. So those are the 6 bullet points that are part of the 2023 strategic plan. And we're looking for you to maybe take your top 1 or 2 in terms of your priorities and why would you rank them the highest. I'm going to read them again for you, though. Youth and education, increased support for local clubs, enhancing leagues, membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and marketing and media.
First of all, I think those are all fantastic points. I think those are all really great priorities for the PDGA. And, I think that it's great that there's 6 of them because 2 of those really did jump out at me. And okay. I think that, for another person on the board, it may be another 2. And, different people can bring their enthusiasm for those, to the conversation. But for me, the youth participation, even though it's first on the list, it also would have been the first on my list. And there's a good reason for that. I volunteered like 10 years ago to coach my stepson's soccer league when someone asked me to, even though I'd never played soccer, knew nothing about it. Okay. So I know that sounds crazy, but they just didn't have anybody to do it. Anyway, my point is that it was surprisingly gratifying and, to see kids to, really get excited about, an athletic activity like that. And so that's exactly why my daughter is 13 and goes to a school here in Athens called Double Helix. And they needed some instructors for extracurricular activities. And I asked if they wanted me to do disc golf, and they said yes. And it was very cool. The kids were misbehaving the whole time, reminding me of when I was that age. But I will say that there were a couple of kids in the class that were naturals, and I was excited to see it. They were excited to see it. This is a sport where the similarities to ball golf astound me sometimes because I've played more ball golf since I was 10 or 11 years old. But one of those similarities, I think, is that the earlier that you can develop a technique, the better, for a lot of reasons. And I know that's an obvious thing to say, but one of the probably the best reasons would be that you don't have all of those years to form bad habits, like bad technique. And so the earlier we can get them involved in the sport, the better. That's my point. And
Okay.
I think that would be a fantastic focus for the PDGA. When I was teaching that class, I got in touch with Des Redding, who was very helpful, sent me a lot of tips. So I think the PDGA is on the right track, but I'd like to see that, go even further. I think that the second point that I'd like to focus on is marketing. There's an explosion, as we all know, in our sport right now, and it needs to be leveraged, at every possible opportunity, so that if this is going to be a worldwide sport that is, not only growing in participation and membership, but in prestige, got to approach it that way. And, I just love what's going on right now, not just the increase in participation, but with the Disc Golf Network. What the Disc Golf Network is doing, just to me right now, is so fantastic that it needs to be better advertised. I just think that there's people who maybe aren't even as, enthusiastic about the sport as we are right now, who would enjoy it. And, last year I caught some of the coverage, and there were some bugs in it. But this year I've just been so impressed with what's going on. And that's the kind of thing that everybody should know about. And, So I think that's my answer there, Terry, which is that I think as long as we can focus on getting kids involved just as early as possible, and making sure that we're doing the marketing so that all the amazing things that are happening, such as the Disc Golf Network and other coverages such as yours and everything, is being promoted the way that it should, I think that would be the way to prioritize going forward.
Okay. Well, with those two in mind, as you just recapped them, the follow-up question to that is, what skills and experiences would you bring to the board to help further those priorities? And I know you kind of touched on that with saying that you're volunteering with the school side and teaching disc golf. But what are some of the skills and experiences you'd bring to the board to help those priorities?
I would hope that the main thing I could bring to the board would just be my general enthusiasm for disc golf, which really annoys my wife because we were looking at refrigerators earlier, and I had on my tournament shirt, and someone asked about it, and so she's like, "Oh God,
here we go." Yeah.
So I think you know what I'm talking about. So
yeah.
Nobody's more enthusiastic than the disc golf guy, that's what I would bring to the table more than anything. I think is a willingness to assist any way that I could, but more specifically, it's like I was saying earlier, just any issues that related to rules, whether administrative, regulatory, or otherwise legal rules, would be the kind of thing that I could try to get answers on. And I think it could save the PDGA some money if they don't have to pay for outside legal counsel. It's just always good to have a lawyer around for when those issues pop up, so that you don't interrupt progress waiting on, sort of bringing a lawyer up to speed, outside the process, and then, hoping that they sort of get it, even though they weren't in the meeting. So that's the main thing that I would like to try to contribute, Terry.
All right. Well, the next question is, there is a burgeoning professional scene that attracts eyeballs, but the vast majority of our membership are amateurs. Mm-hmm. What do you think the organization's balance between the two should be?
That's a great question. I like the balance right now. Okay. I think that, you've seen, what is it? The end of the year tournament championship with the $20,000 for FPO and MPO, for instance, the purses are growing. The coverage is growing. I just like the vector of the way the PDGA is handling the professional side of it right now. And I can't complain at all about the way that they're handling, the side of things where I come from as well. The tournaments that are that we have around here that are sanctioned are all amazing. There's just in Athens, Georgia, there's just been an incredible increase in membership around here as of late. And so I must admit, if something's not broken, don't fix it. I feel like the balance is good.
Okay. I hear you. So now I guess we'll somewhat pull off of that one, which is there is evidence such as the current surge of membership, event growth, staff size, and so on and so forth that says we should just stay the course. And on the other hand, there's people that feel that the PDGA needs to change. Where do you fall on that spectrum and why?
Well, I don't know that you can just say generally the PDGA needs to change without being specific and having a course of action that is well reasoned and deliberate to make those changes. And so I don't mean to give you sort of a lawyerly answer here where I don't answer the question.
Hey, I didn't write the questions, man. So don't.
I understand.
No.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is that I wouldn't feel informed truly to answer that question unless and until I was honored with an appointment to the board of directors so that I could get in there and start seeing exactly where things stand. And, is everything in compliance with, the objectives, the strategy and everything, but also the bylaws and all of the regulations that need to be considered. So I actually don't believe I would have an answer to that question unless I was better informed.
No, perfectly fine. I think if I'm going to use my personal interpretation here, I think one of the comments that gets said or has been said throughout the years since I've been around for now myself for 25 plus years is that some people feel like the board, for instance, can be a good old boys network. And of course, that's a phrase that gets thrown out there, whether I subscribe or not. That's a phrase that gets thrown around. And then I feel like some people also, what they mean by that is they feel as if somehow the PDGA is not doing enough and what that means to them. And so those are the ways that I interpret that. I don't know if you want to chime in on any of those, and I hope I'm not, trying to read too far into the question. But those are, to me, those I feel like are the ones that are most commonly kind of put out there. Well,
that's actually a really interesting perspective. As far as the Good Old Boys network, I often sue those people. People, I'm not much of a politician. As far as that goes. And I guess people need to know that. I mean, if I see something wrong right in front of my face, I'm not going to ignore it. And, that's, I guess that's just sort of a subjective sort of personality thing. So to whatever degree that may help the voters.
Okay. Well, here's one that's a little bit specific to you. We're rounding out our set of questions, but one of them that's specific to you. It says your candidate bio discusses your professional and disc golf experience, but doesn't lay out any specific initiatives you plan to introduce to the board if elected. What plans have you outlined for implementation should you be elected?
None. And the reason for that is because I, again, think that the vector that the association is on right now is truly fantastic. I feel fortunate to have the PDGA where it is and where it's going. I just want to just chip in a small way to try to make sure that it's sort of on a compliance level and in any way that I'm needed. I am not coming in with an attitude of, I know best, and I've been in the game for 5 years, so I know best, so I'm going to change everything because I'm Mr. Progressive or whatever. That's just not how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as, there's an amazing foundation in place that could be expanded in a deliberate and compliant way. And I just would like to assist with that in any way that I can.
Okay, well, we're at the final question, which is a certainly open-ended one, which just asks you, what do you bring to the table that sets you apart from the other candidates, and why should members vote for you?
I have a law degree. I've been practicing for 18 years, and I know how to solve problems that relate to, compliance and regulations. So I think that the PDGA board could benefit from having someone like that around at all the meetings.
All right. Well, that makes perfect sense. Well, John, I've got to admit, I think I've mentioned with everyone who I either did or didn't know prior to these interviews, you are someone that I hadn't met before, but I certainly am glad that we had the chance to talk. You've given me some personal insight, and then obviously, hopefully all of our voters out there, all of our PDGA members now know you a little bit better and also know the angles in which you're approaching this candidacy. So with that, we're going to let you go. I want to say thank you yet again. Of course, best of luck to you. And that's going to conclude our 2021 PDGA Board of Director candidate interview with John Baker. Get out there and vote, and we'll see you guys at the next one.
Honored to meet you, Terry. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Board of Director candidate interviews. I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, and I have teamed up with the PDGA to get a little more insight to our 8 board candidates that are running for the positions this year. And today, I'm going to be joined by Leah Sinigini. And Leah, I think the tough part for me is done. I think I got your name right?
You did. Good job.
All right. Well, we can end it there. No. All right. Well, so excited to talk to you. You're one of our newer PDGA members that's going to be running for the board. So I'm super excited to run through these questions with you. You've got the same questions that we're going to hear from all of the potential candidates. And we're going to start out super easy and simple for you. And that is, how long have you been a PDGA member and how long have you played disc golf?
I have been, actually, we are coming up on my anniversary, my year anniversary of joining the PDGA. So I believe I got my number towards the end of June. It would have been right before my first tournament ever.
Wow. And so clearly a recent PDGA member. How long have you been playing actual disc golf? And then what drove you to get into it?
So I started playing disc golf at the beginning of May last year. So it's been about 13 months now. And I joined the PDGA a month later when I found a tournament that I wanted to sign up for.
What was it that got you to the sport in the first place?
So I was a professional ultimate frisbee player and on a club team at USA Ultimate. So Atlanta Soul and Atlanta Ozone, both women's teams. And I was planning to play last year, but when the pandemic hit and I was left without any competitive sports to play, I found my way into disc golf through some friends. And the second I found out that tournaments were still going on, I was like, I can be competitive and learn a new sport at the same time. Like, that sounds amazing. I'm going to do it. And so only a month into playing, I signed up for the Etowah Mud Single in FA3. And that's actually the only FA3 tournament. I went up to FPO right after that. So I've been doing FPO ever since that.
All right. Well, I say it often. Welcome to the Frisbee family, but you were already here. You were just, in a different discipline, but welcome to the disc golf family as you're a recent addition. Glad to have you. All right.
Thanks.
Well, we're going to move in. Now they're going to get a little tougher. And we start with question 1, which is, one of the 2 main elements of the PDGA mission is to develop disc golf into a globally recognized competitive and recreational activity. What does that mean to you, and how would you contribute as a board member towards this objective?
I love that question. For me, growing it globally means that we have to include communities that we don't typically see in disc golf. And so specifically for me, that means growing it with the mindset of trying to get more Black, Indigenous, and people of color into the sport, and other diverse populations too. So for me, when I think about, anyone that can get their hands on a disc and they fall in love with the game, like that has happened typically within the communities that have access to a disc golf course or whatnot. So I think just thinking about, new ways to get people into the game without necessarily having to have a course there. So especially those that are doing work on the youth side, those initiatives are really important. And then initiatives with LGBTQ communities, anyone with handicaps or other disabilities, those kinds of things, I can really see disc golf growing because, all of those communities, they want an outlet for, physical activity and being outside too. And so finding this sport, I've only been in it for a year and I'm already all in. So, so if we get more people that look like me and other diverse populations, that'd be sweet.
Okay. Well, that definitely will kind of lead into question 2, which is the other element of the PDGA mission is to sustain the growth of the organization, the membership, and the overall sport. So the same question is, what does that mean to you and how do you contribute to that, the sustaining the growth of the organization, the membership, and the sport itself?
Mm-hmm. So to sustain growth, that definitely has to happen at the local levels. The PDGA is like the broader, aspects of growing the sport. But when it comes to being able to create strong, lasting initiatives, then, that has to be at the local level. So whether that's, getting the PDGA to provide more toolkits or other resources, we can be able to support those, organizers that are working at their clubs or trying to just run a clinic or coaching. So those kinds of things I think are super important. Everyone that is a volunteer or an organizer in any way in their local city or town, that's where it's really important. So providing resources for those people. Okay.
Well, number 3 is the current priorities for the 2023 PDGA strategic plan include the following areas. And now there's 6 of them, and I'll repeat them for you because I know it's a lot to remember, but they're essentially asking which priorities do you feel are the most important? The top 1 or 2 priorities do you feel are the most important, and how can you go about developing them? And those 6 are youth and education, increase support for local clubs, enhancing PDGA leagues, membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and then marketing and media. And if you want, I'll quickly repeat those. Youth and education, increased support for local clubs, enhancing PDGA level leagues, membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and then media and marketing. If you had to pick kind of 2 of those bullet points in terms of furthering those priorities or furthering those and making those your top priorities, what would they be?
I really like the first one, especially youth and education. I've been around youth and sports for a long time now. I've coached ultimate frisbee since I was in college at the high school and middle school levels. I lived abroad for a year in Israel working for Ultimate Peace, which is a nonprofit that it uses the sport of ultimate frisbee for middle school and high school age kids, where they learn about mutual respect and nonviolent conflict resolution in an area that obviously has a lot of a long history with conflict. And so basically, to me, it's all about the youth and getting different, diverse youth in the sport. And so for me, that would be number 1.
Okay.
So I love what UPlay is doing and being on the PDGA Diversity and Outreach Task Force. We've got a chance to look at some grant applications where there were, organizers that were specifically trying to get more youth into the sport and youth of color, and at the high school, maybe some college age people too. So definitely that is important to me. And then the other one, I would say,
I can relist them for you. That's enhanced PDGA leagues, increased support for local clubs, membership levels and benefits, sustainability, and media and marketing.
Yeah, so the increasing, the support for local clubs would be another important one, just because that falls in line with what I was saying about, giving more resources to the local level organizers. For them, we would really need to hear from what they would need. So, just as a board member, being able to listen and learn more about what they see, what they would want to see from the PDGA in order to support them.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on to number 4 here, which is what skills and experiences would you bring to the board to help further those priorities, the ones you were just talking about in terms of, you were saying, increased support for local clubs and then youth and education. What are some of your skills that you'd bring to the board?
First and foremost, I identify as a person of color. So I am a member of Navajo Nation. So I'm Navajo and Filipino. And so just being a person of color brings these unique lived experiences that allow me to, have a different perspective than what I think a lot of the, what we've gotten from past board members, So I'm a woman of color. There's a lot that goes into my perspective, and I think that's super important. And then the next would be that I've been an organizer, a coach, and a volunteer for my entire life. My whole goal in life is just to help people and to make, bring positive change to the world. So when I think about my experiences, specifically at USA Ultimate, I was the Southeast College Women's Regional Director for five seasons. So, I have volunteer experience where I was in a key, role for the USA Ultimate. I also have nonprofit experience, living abroad for a year, as I mentioned, with Ultimate Peace. And also in law school, I had plenty of experience interning and externing for different nonprofits. There, I was at the National Council of Urban Indian Health and also the McCain Institute in Washington, D.C. And I've also worked at the tribal and local, the tribal, state, and federal levels. So I've been with the CDC, I've been with the Arizona Utilities Commission, and I've been with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians in their legal assistance office. So all of my professional experience goes into, my values and how I feel about serving the people and bringing better change for people that are typically marginalized and those underserved populations. It's part of my being. So being here just makes sense.
Certainly. Okay, well, we're going to move on to number 5, which is there's a burgeoning professional scene that attracts eyeballs, but the vast majority of the membership are amateurs. What do you think the organizational's balance should be between the two, between, focusing on our pros versus our much larger demographic, or membership, I should say, it being the amateurs? Where do you see the balance between those two?
It certainly has to be a balance. And as a professional player, I'm going to be advocating for certain things that I would like to see as a pro. But, for me, the majority is with the amateurs. So if we just look at the distribution, we should be focusing more time on amateurs in terms of getting them into the game and figuring out how to make their experience more enjoyable, because really it's just all about making sure that the people that are getting into the game stay in the game because they're having fun and they're, finding a community in which they feel like, they can be happy and have this healthy lifestyle. So for sure, amateurs, listening to them and figuring out what they would like to see is important. From my own perspective, I feel that the pros can help shape the game in terms of getting more eyes on the sport. So definitely not something to leave out either. So that would be, that's a tough question. I don't know exactly what that balance would look like. I would need, yeah.
There is evidence, such as the current surge of membership and event growth, staff size, etc., that says we should just stay the course. And on the other hand, there are people who feel the PDGA needs to change. Where do you fall on that spectrum, and why?
I am a firm believer of continual growth. And so to me, that question is just, what is it that the PDGA is doing that is working? And then what is it that they can do to improve? So for me, I'm always going to be trying to figure out what it is to improve and look at the areas for growth. So I definitely would love to see the PDGA do more self-reflection. So, being on the board, I want to hear members' input and player input and figure out what it is that we're doing that they do love and making sure that we continue that. But definitely the focus should be on where do we want to be and what do we see that would be better than where we are now, which is to say that I feel confident in my abilities to accept criticism. I feel confident in my abilities to, take the time to self-reflect and grow, which one of my priorities is that transparency, and the other one being awareness. So just being able to, make adjustments and figure out where it is that we can make the sport better.
Okay. Now, after all of those, we have one that's a little bit more specific to you that was written up. So I'm going to give it to you, which is, despite being new to the sport, your bio and player profile show that you have quickly immersed yourself heavily into the culture and community. What positives and challenges have you seen during the densely packed disc golf career, and how do you plan on transforming both into greater outcomes for the PDGA? So I think that's trying to say you got at it quickly.
My friends think I'm absolutely crazy. My sister knows I'm crazy, so she wasn't surprised. So when I got into the sport, I tried signing up for as many tournaments as I could. And the great part about disc golf is that you get to see lots of different parts of the country. And so just from my travels itself, you can see how much love and pride goes into the local clubs. And so that for me has been the best is, going to events and seeing the volunteers and having the volunteers just, be really happy that there's players at their home courses playing the game. So that to me has been really fun. And then some challenges that I've seen are just the disparities between especially the mixed divisions versus the female protected divisions, and even the age protected divisions. I'm seeing disparities there. So trying to get more priority and equity in the sport from a gender and racial lens. You can't have one without the other. All of these goals are intersectional. So when we think about when we see less FPO coverage, for example, that's always going to be something that's a hot ticket item that people want to discuss more. But to me, it just makes sense. If we want to see more FPO, have a higher number of FPO playing the game, we got to get more eyes on the division. So issues like that where it's kind of been slow going to see that growth coming from Ultimate and specifically the Premier Ultimate League, where we started our own women's and non-binary professional league 2 years ago. I think it was in 2019. There was a men's professional league that had started in 2012 that's still going. So you can see this across all sports, how everyone's trying to do better and trying to improve in terms of, growing the sport through an equitable lens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else with the challenges or the positives that you've seen? And don't feel like you have to give anymore. I want to make sure you got all your thought out since you have taken on so much in this last year.
Yeah, I really appreciate the work that I do see going into the sport, because everyone is talking about these things because they care about it. And I think that if we take the time to listen to each other and really try to understand everyone's struggles and challenges, I think that we'll be better off, like leading with compassion and trying to figure out what it is that you have and how it is that you can give it to other people. So just having that like mutual respect and, having that learning and growth mindset for yourself and for the sport, I think that would go a long way. Just having the ability to listen to others is hard without, being defensive about it. And so sometimes I feel like I've had these conversations at the local level and even at the national level where I'm touring, that it's hard to have these conversations without there being that kind of like butting heads. So I think if we, reframe it and make sure that we are understanding that everyone's on the same side, we all care, that would go a long way.
Okay. Well, we've arrived at the final question, and super excited what you say to. What do you bring to the table that sets you apart from other candidates, and why should members vote for you?
I love this question. I've read through the get to know the candidates page. I can't wait to listen to these other interviews to learn more about them. So I'm only going off of what I've read on the one page itself. But I will be a new person. So I think there's one incumbent, from my understanding. Mm-hmm. And also I am the only woman, and I'm the only person of color running, I believe. So that in itself stands out to me. I think we have eight good candidates here, but I think that coming from this new player, professional player, I'm touring this year, all of these different identities that I have are going to go into being someone that really wants to bring a new, fresh light into the PDGA and trying to help its membership in the sport.
Okay, well, thank you, first and foremost, not only for just the idea of running, but for also, of course, taking the time for all of our members so that they are a little bit more educated as to how you align and everything that you bring to the table. We're going to close it out. And again, I want to say to everyone, make sure you get out and vote. That is first and foremost the most important thing. Find which candidate that you align with or that excites you the most, and make sure you get out there and cast your vote. So again, for Leah Sinigini, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. This has been your 2021 PDGA Board of Director candidate interview. We wish everyone the best of luck, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you.